Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday night in Bangkok. That means we are at another session of Field Gemology Talks. I'm Justin K. Prim. I'll be one of your hosts tonight. Thanks for being here. If you haven't been here before, welcome. If you have been here before, welcome back. We've been doing this now, I think, for maybe 7 weeks or 6 weeks. It's been a while. And we've had a lot of really nice conversations on Wednesday nights, and we're going to have another really nice conversation tonight. Should be very interesting and a little bit of a different flavor than what we've spoken about previously, or at least from a different background. So tonight we're going to be speaking with Dr. Remy Canavesio in France, and it should be quite interesting. So I guess we'll just get right into it. Vincent, if you're ready, we can roll. And welcome everybody from all over the world. I see you're all saying hi into the chat. Hi, Vincent.
How are you doing?
Doing well. How's the other side of Bangkok today?
Well, the other side of Bangkok is basically it's opening again here because I think there was no case of coronavirus from the past 2 weeks. So things are opening again, but people are still wearing masks everywhere. People are still washing their hands 20 times per day. Keeping a little bit of social distancing. Not everything is possible, but at least there is basically not many cases in the country. I think there was less than 60 dead altogether on a little bit more than 3,000 cases.
Yeah, we got lucky.
But people here wear masks. Everybody wear masks. Everybody wash their hands. So it seems that the situation is quite well under control, and there is no queuing in hospital. Hospital are quiet.
Yeah.
So it seems that this is kind of okay. But regarding the business here, it's
it's very slow. The people that I've talked to so far have had a pretty good attitude. I mean, everybody sort of understands that nothing amazing is going to happen right now. Everyone's pretty much just happy to survive in this time. So I think that's about as good as we can hope for.
Yeah.
So I guess we can see what's going on in France tonight, since our guest is live from France, and see what's going on there. So what's the story tonight? What's your background with Remy? How do you guys know each other?
Oh, it's quite simple. I first met Remy very recently because we discuss a lot with each other by email. Mm-hmm. But we met, I think, about 1 year ago. That's it. 1 year and a half ago.
Okay.
And but we are discussing together for about 11 years. So we discussed because Remy was working on his PhD in Madagascar, and we have some common friends. But every time he was in Madagascar for his PhD, I was out of Madagascar. He did his PhD about the same time as I first visited the place. I started visiting Madagascar in 2005, and from 2005, and then I returned in 2007, 2008. And Remy did his main work, I think, around the same time, and he published his PhD in 2011.
Okay.
So we had several discussions by email, and then I kept going in Madagascar, and we kept discussing every time I had something question to ask. I was sometimes asking Remy because he has a background in geography. He's not a gemologist. He's not a kind of a scientist on basically a physics, chemistry type of science, but he's on human science.
Okay.
And I found his PhD very, very interesting because it was covering many aspects that, when you're going around in a mining area to collect sample, you get impression, you get a feeling that because you meet few people, but actually Remy investigate, and he asked a question to many people. He had a very systematic way to collect data, and actually I learned a lot from Remy on that. So that's why I invited Remy tonight, and his PhD, it's about more than 500 pages on Ilakaka. When I read the whole paper, I was super impressed. And I'm still using that regularly because there are very few gem rush that were studied by academic people.
Yeah.
So the work that Remy did in Ilakaka, which is probably the biggest modern gem rush in Africa, is very interesting because what you have there, when I look at what is going on, for example, in Tanzania, in Mozambique, it's quite similar to what happened in Madagascar. There are some patterns that you can remember and then that help you to understand what is actually going on. So this is why I all the time like to discuss with Remy because he has a different point of view. He's a bit an outsider in our industry.
Yeah.
And it's very fascinating to know what he's thinking about.
Well,
Remy,
welcome, Remy. Welcome to Field Gemology Talks.
Welcome, everyone.
I'm digging a little bit in something, so I let you guys speak, and I'm a little bit late on something, so I come back to you.
So, first of all, Remy, you're coming to us from France tonight, right?
Yes, I come from France, and that's why my English is very bad.
That's okay. Well, what's going on right now in France? I know you, as far as COVID's going, just to kind of catch up with the current state of affairs, because I know you guys had a pretty serious lockdown. There were fines. Is that still going on, or is France starting to open up a little bit now?
No, it's reopened almost everywhere since the beginning of May, the 11th, and it opened more since about 10 days. It's a big difference since 10 days because restaurants have reopened, and it makes the feeling that it's a little bit like before COVID, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
People are not wearing masks, especially in the street, just in the shops or yes, for transport. But if you look at the street, actually in Bordeaux, it's not really different than before coronavirus.
Okay.
It's not finished. The coronavirus is still somewhere. We don't know, but it's just a few hundred cases per day. And actually, it seems that it's okay, but for sure it's not.
Yeah. Well,
That
I
it's
guess
kind
only.
of a weird situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess only time is really going to tell.
It's
So,
almost the same everywhere in main Europe countries.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for the update. So tell us a bit about yourself. How did you get into this idea of, as Vincent was saying, doing your PhD on this mining rush? Where did this come from? And tell us a little bit about your background as far as how did you get to that idea?
Yes, I think at the beginning it's part of chance. I've been in Madagascar for the first time in 2001 in December. I've been there just for holidays. It was a trip of 3 weeks because my family has a friend that married in Madagascar and gave me the idea. I escaped university for 2 weeks and I've been there just for a trip. I crossed a large part of southwest of Madagascar during this time. By many way, I've been. I made a trip of a few days by bike, by canoe on the river, on a boat from Morundav to Tuléar to avoid the roads that were closed due to the rain season. And when I came back to Tananarive from Tuléar, I crossed for the first time Ilakaka. It was really the beginning of the rush, not really the first days, but it started in October 1998. And I crossed for the first time the Ilakaka mining district in December 2001. At this time, we have not make a stop in the area because According to everybody, it was a super dangerous location. And I just remember that the taxi bus crossed the village, not stopping, we make nothing, not a photograph, anything. And I just remember at this time a village made of wood and of plastic bags. Is
Okay.
the only thing I remember of this crossing. And finally, for me, it was just an image in my mind, nothing more. But during this first trip, I really enjoyed Madagascar, and I was thinking, according to my studies as a geographer, I was beginning very young student. I was only 19, I think, and I was thinking, I know next year I'm in situation to stay long time in Madagascar for my studies. And I said, come on, I'll do that. And that's why I stayed in the university system for one more year, just to go to Madagascar for a longer trip.
Okay.
And during this time, so the year after, in 2002, I've been back in Madagascar for 3 months, but not in the Ilakaka area. I stayed 3 months in the western part of the country, near Anjomara-Martin. It's not a very important location. And I was studying rice production in this area, and it was not really traditional rice fields. Sorry. Many people were coming from everywhere in Madagascar to work as farmer in this area. And it's my first contact with migrations questions. And in these migrants, I met for the first time one guy that I've worked in the Ilakaka mining district for 2 years before. And he told me many things about Ilakaka, and it seems to be a really incredible location. During this trip, during these 3 months in Madagascar, I've been in the south again, in Fort Dauphin, Tolagnac, at the extreme southern point of the country. And during a way to Tuléar,
Yeah, I'll show the map while you're telling us.
Yes, we can see on this map the different locations. So I just was I was saying that I've been to Fort Dauphin for the first time in January 2003, and during a trip to Tuléar, I've been in a taxi bus, and for many reasons, taxi bus are a big. When you take a taxi bus, Madagascar, sometimes it's for a few hours, sometimes it's for a few days, and maybe sometimes for a few weeks. And during this trip, finally, the taxi bus has stopped in Ilakaka. It was not planned at the beginning. And the taxi bus was full of people that were doing the rush to take their chance and start working as miners in Ilakaka. And finally, my idea was not to stay in Ilakaka, but we stayed for one night in Ilakaka for the first time in January 2003. And I met a guy that became a friend after that. This guy was doing the trip for the first time to become a miner, and I've met this guy again and again every year after.
Okay.
And it made me be so curious of what happened in this area. And when I continue my university as a master and after to my PhD. And when I've been in Bordeaux, I was speaking with my with Professor Christian Bouquet that just stayed for a few hours in Ilakaka. And when in the discussion, he tell me, what do you want to do after? On what kind of subject do you want to work, or what do you want to study for the second year of master? And I was thinking that he would not be okay to take a student to work on this area, because it was known as a very dangerous location, the most dangerous in Madagascar, I think, during this time. But finally, during the speak, during this talk, he told me, I crossed the mining district a few months ago. You've been there. I've been there as well. And what do you think? And I said, stop. Do you mean I can work on it? He said, I think you can. And I said, okay, come on, here we go. And I have been there for the first time, really, to study this mining district. So it was the first year of the master, and it was, I think, in March and April 2004.
So
And it was just the beginning of about more than 5 years that I've been there, for every year, sometime for 1 or 2 months, sometime for more. And finally, I stayed in the mining district of Ilakaka for about 6 months, I think, between 2004 and 2008.
Wow. And so when you were originally there, you weren't there looking at gemstone stuff. You were just there doing normal sort of, I don't know what, sociology or just statistical. It wasn't about gems at first, right?
It was not for gem at first, and it was not for gems at the end. I always have been there to study. Yes, what you are talking about, sociology. Yes, it was a kind of geography, very social, political geography. How the gem activity, gem mining changed. We talk about governance in French. How the people are managing the country at different scale, at the local scale, in the mining district, and also at the national scale of Madagascar. It was the subject I looked to work on, and but it's social science, as said Vincent just before when he introduced me. But I try when I can to make a kind of normal science with social subjects.
Okay.
And it's what Vincent said. When I can produce data to measure what we feel, I do that, because as Vincent said, we've got a lot of feelings when we are everywhere, and some social scientists stay at this level, and I try when I can to produce data to make experience on these feelings and to prove or improve them.
Okay. And so while you were there, because you've been there many times and for various lengths, what was your actual experience like? What kind of a place were you living in, and were you traveling around during these months, or were you mostly just staying in one place so you could watch it and see what happened?
I stayed all the time from almost the first days. I stayed in the same place in Andoan Ilakak. That is the main town in the mining district,
Okay.
crossed by the main road. Andoan Ilakak was just a very, very small village, just about 10 or 15 houses in 1998. And during the rush, the population increased a lot. Actually, it's about 20,000 people. And since I think that it is almost the number of people since 2003, something like that. So increased very, very fast in only 5 years. And I stayed all the time in this in this town. It's a kind of town. At the beginning, it was a town made of plastic bags, and after made of wood, and more and more made of stones. But when I've been there for the first time, so it was mainly made of wood. And so I stayed there I talk about a restaurant, hotel restaurant, but it's not really what you can imagine if you have never been in a mining district.
Yeah.
It's more, we talk about saloon in French. I don't know if it's the same word in English. But it was, yes, a kind of restaurant for miners and hotel for miners with prostitutes everywhere, as you can imagine. And I stayed there for all the months. I found people that were really, really friendly in that place. When I was in security, I bought a motorbike.
Mm-hmm.
I lived the motorbike there for weeks and months, sometime where I lived when I lived the mining district, and my motorbike never moved. It was really a good place to stay, and it was exactly in the middle of the town, just near the place where taxi bus come and every day. The name is Satellite 2000. It's just nothing. It's really unknown from everybody.
Yeah.
But it's the place where I stayed. It was like for free for me. It's I don't have to pay a lot. It was just nothing. And I stayed there. And from that place, with my motorbike, every day, I worked everywhere in the mining district. Sometimes I make kind of expeditions for several days, sometimes for a week or a little bit more, because the area, maybe you can show the map, the area is really large. It's more than 100 kilometers.
Remy will be able to show the video. The video is ready, so we can show to people attending the meeting for about 10 minutes. Kind of short documentaries that we did in around 2015 when I was working with GIA, and that shows basically what is Ilakaka and how it looks like, and different aspects of from the mining to the trading. And, at least people will have some image in mind.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to show the video now, or how do you want to do it? Okay,
yeah.
let's
see if we can sort of visualize what kind of an area Remy is talking about, and then we'll come back.
So it's a short documentary that we did based on 3 expeditions that I had between 2012 and 2015. So I'm going to show that.
Okay.
In the south of Madagascar, the Red Island, as people used to call it, halfway between the central island on the western coast, lies a mining town called Ilakaka. The discovery of sapphires in 1998 placed this village of just a few souls as one of the main sapphire deposits on the map of the world. I visited Ilakaka for the first time in 2005. And since then, have returned 6 times to visit all the known sapphire deposits around the town. Thanks to the contact I made through the years, some who have become really good friends, bringing me precious help, GA has been able to localize most of the sapphire deposits around Ilakaka. We have been able to build the most reliable and realistic map of the sapphire deposit around Ilakaka ever published. How many people there? One more point on the map. With an area of about 120 kilometers by 100 kilometers, Ilakaka is probably the largest sapphire deposit in the world today. Most of the sapphire are found in Paleo Channel, meaning former riverbed, sometimes hidden up to 50 meters under the surface. The area is a huge secondary deposit. This is the stone that they use as indicators?
5, 6, 7 meters to put this gravel to the surface. Very hard work, I can imagine.
Located at the limit of the Ishal National Park, Ilakaka is surrounded by breathtaking landscape on a wide natural expanse. Home to endemic species and various ethnic groups, the sapphire rush town is a microcosm of colors and exchange between all the actors and witnesses of the gem mining business. From dawn to dusk, the place is living at the rhythm of gem mining and trading. Covering a full spectrum of rainbow colors, sapphires, Alexandrite chrysoberyl, and all other gems like garnet and spinel are the only reason for anyone to be here. Directly or indirectly, any business are linked to it. Near Ilakaka, you can find the original mining site, still active, where some of the local miners are hired to work by investors. The mayor of Ilakaka doesn't authorize mechanical mining near the town, thus allowing newcomers the opportunity of work.
You have about between 100 and 200 diggers?
As manpower is definitively necessary to work these sites. Following the technique of the decoupage, miners are daisy chaining in order to remove the overburden and find the gem-rich gravel beneath to be washed and searched for sapphire.
Aujourd'hui travail, demain soir, paie l'argent.
Paid on a daily basis, these job opportunities are becoming rarer at the periphery of the town, as most of it has been already searched. But Ilakaka is 120 by 100 kilometers. But there is only one road passing through the deposit that is associated with a network of dirt roads. Nevertheless, in many cases we have to walk. To reach a deposit, we often have to follow river stream.
Mar saphire.
Fantôme et saphire.
This is the local things.
Some of the most remote mining areas are hard to reach, taking numerous hours, sometimes days, walking under the strong Malagasy sun. Walking, hiking, getting wet and dusty, it sometimes takes a lot to reach a place.
The army and the police still afraid to go there also.
Spinel bleu, grenat, chrysoberyl, saphir rose, saphir blanc, tourmaline. Tourmaline.
Most of the mining sites are exploited in a traditional way. Finding gem-rich gravel is the only thing that matters for the miners.
Saphir rose principalement, des tout petites pierres.
They will find them on the ground, digging horizontally into a cliff, or after digging a deep vertical pit in the middle of what looks to be nowhere. Collecting and washing this precious gravel are their main focus, as hidden among the majority of worthless material might be the gem that will change their life.
C'est essayer de trouver la grosse pierre et rien d'autre.
The mining pit technique is the most impressive. Hundreds of thousands of these single pits can be seen all over the region. Usually they are less than a meter in diameter to minimize the chance of collapsing. The Malagasy miners dig them using simple hand tools. They can be as deep as 50 or even 60 meters in order to reach the precious gravels. Deep underground, oxygen is rare. In order to obtain the life-giving oxygen, the miners use simple, ingenious, low-cost ventilation system made of plastic bags to send air to the diggers. We are going down a pit about 36 meters deep to see with our own eye in which conditions the miners are working.
Entrez.
Ici, on peut voir un petit peu étudier la couche dans laquelle les gens travaillent et voir un petit peu les conditions de travail de ces mineurs. Pink, yellow, blue, purple. A gem will shine out of the accumulated unwashed gravels. Using mainly the closest rivers or water point, the miners and their family wash on such gravels, even the children sometimes. It is hard work, to say the least. Miners' life depends on finding and selling sapphires. Local Malagasy buyers open sometimes counters inside the village.
10 000 francs.
And miners visit the market at the end of the day to sell what they found at the best possible price.
On va pas tout de suite arriver et commencer à regarder des pierres, sinon ça va être compliqué. À la fin, ils verront que les étrangers sont là et c'est plutôt demain qu'on achètera des pierres ici.
When you arrive in a mining village, it requires a good knowledge of the culture and local people to find interesting stone without disturbing the existing business practice. Foreigners are not usually allowed to buy gems in village. Nevertheless, with proper introductions, once relationships are created and people know what you are here for, the stone begin to appear.
Si tout le monde cherche du saphir. Donc là, j'ai simplement acheté une petite pierre qui n'a pas de valeur, juste on va dire pour amorcer un petit peu la conversation, montrer qu'on est là, qu'on achète. C'est une pierre absolument sans intérêt, juste pour amorcer un petit peu les relations.
Time is our best ally in all these kind of expedition. The longer you stay, the more chance you have of seeing something interesting. The Sri Lankans are the main traders here. They have an ancestral knowledge of sapphire mining and trading. What the ruby is for the Burmese, the sapphire is for the Sri Lankan.
At the GA laboratory in Bangkok. So I'm working for an American company in Thailand, but I'm French.
In good harmony with local rules and people, the Sri Lankan usually help the Malagasy miners, providing them with food and tools.
So like that you are friendly with the local people, correct?
Yeah, very friendly.
Yeah. Okay.
In exchange for what the miner brings them in the way of their fighting when dust descends. The Sri Lankans understand that the closer they are to the production site, the better positioned they are to get their hand on the stone before others. As there is only one main road to reach Ilakaka, they open counters in some small village between Ilakaka and the main mining site in the area, transforming this village into trading post. Therefore, they are the first one miners will visit on their way between the mine and Ilakaka.
So they want to catch the stone like a first.
Okay, so it's geographically it's the best place to buy the stone.
Yes, yes.
Nowadays, most of the sapphire trade in the region is in the hand of the Sri Lankan community. In addition to the Thais, a few Westerners, and some Malagasy traders. We visited most of the mining sites around Ilakaka in the recent years. There are still some to visit. The probability of finding new sapphire deposits are high. The main issue here are the lack of infrastructure, knowledge, technique, and investment required to turn Ilakaka into a real success story. It is still a young deposit. It takes history and complicity to create a relationship between people, gems, and their origin. Madagascar has a huge potential as a sapphire producing country. GIA will keep visiting Madagascar to study and document all its deposits. The islands still have much more to offer.
Yeah, so that definitely gives us an idea about what's visually going on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, visually now you can have an idea about basically how it was, and I think how it was still about the same last time I visited Ilakaka, basically 6 months ago.
So my question for both of you guys, since you've both been there several times, as French speakers, are you guys mainly speaking French or English over there, or both?
Both. Let's say that with the Sri Lankan don't speak French. So with the Sri Lankan, I speak English.
Right.
And with the Malagasy people, there are few of them who speak English a little bit, but many of them, in the mining village, especially some of the old guys, many speak French. So, I speak a little bit Malagasy, French, and English. So with 3 languages, you can communicate. I guess that Remy, how are you doing? How are you communicating with people?
I never spoke English with Malagasy people. Just sometime with Sri Lankan, just businessmen from other country. But with Malagasy, I always speak French or Malagasy.
Yeah.
It's not the language from the center of the country. It's not the same language as in Tananarive. We'll talk about it after. But most of the people are coming from the south of the country, especially from Fianarantsoa and the extreme south of the country, and it's a language that look like Malagasyan, but from the southern part of the country. And I spoke a little bit this language. I had a level of language that is at the best time at the end of my work in Madagascar. I spoke Malagasyan a little bit like English, actually, I think. And it was by far the best way, speaking a little bit of their own language, to have information on everything, and especially to find this proximity and the possibility of to get information on things that are part of intimity or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we have a question already, but I think before we get to the question, I need to ask you another question first, because we haven't really got an idea yet on what your methodology is like. So you said that you were traveling around, day by day on the motorcycle, but what's your actual approach to, your project and your data collection? How do you actually do it? What's your method?
There are two things. The first thing is as Vincent said in the documentary, time is very important, and that's why I spent a lot of time there. I think you can find good things in that kind of area where every things are weird, where everything's are without any document. So I think take time to have information is very important. That's why I stayed about 6 months in Ilakaka and more than 2 years in Madagascar.
Okay.
With this time, I met people for a long time. They became friends, and they tell me many things. And that's the first thing, get time. After, for every questions, I had to produce my own methodology because, as said Vincent, I've not found that kind of work for even in another place in the world. I found some PhD, but that were very, very old in South Africa or in Cambodia. It was work that I've been done about 50 years before, so I couldn't really use their methodology and do it again in Madagascar. So I had to produce my own methodology, and for every question it was different. Nevertheless, one very important thing has been the survey that I have done in 2007. It was a year where I stayed for about 3 months in Ilakaka, and during these 3 months I have made a big survey on if I remember, it was about 700 people. I asked them 25 questions. It was some questions where we talk about closed questions in French. It's a question where the answer are simple, like yes, no, the age of the people, where they come from, and the place of birth, and things like that. About 20 questions were like this, and 5 questions were open, where people were talking a little bit more. And this survey has been experienced on 4 different villages of the mining district. The main one, Ilakaka, and 3 other, because I was really looking for the reality. And as I know, as I am a geographer, as every geographer would know, social situation changed in the space, and that's why I chose 4 different villages.
Okay.
And this survey is the base of lot of things, and a lot of work after, even after the PhD, for articles and things like that. Okay. I reuse this survey. One example is that with this survey that have been done house per house, house by house.
Okay.
It was the. I was thinking that it was the best way to get good information, not just crossing people in the street, or not just going in the mine and asking people, because in the mine you only find miners. And in the streets, maybe it depends on the hour, but you can only find women or guys or businessmen or things like that. That's why I was thinking I have to work house by house. Okay. And in every part of the different villages.
I know you have this one map. Should I bring this up? The one that shows all the different houses that are inside of Ilakaka?
Yes, you can show this one. It's interesting. This map is from one of the big villages of the mining district. The name is Wimenovo. It's in the southern part of the district. as I said, with this survey, house by house, I have found that the main number of people by house is about 3 or 4. It depends on the village. And after that, by using satellite imagery, I have been able to count the number of houses in some villages and in many villages, not all, because it's really long work and it's boring and it makes me painful at the at the finger because I have to put points on every houses. But finally, I've been able to measure the number of people by square kilometer or thing like that in that kind of village. Because with the survey, I could say there is about 3.6 to 3.8 people by house. And with that kind of methodology that cross finally 2 different approaches, one from the field, the survey, and another one from satellite imagery, I've been in capacity to give, I think, quite good idea of how many people are involved in this gem rush.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is something that we use together on the other one, because you told me about this technique, and now when I go to a place like Dide or Bement or Andy-la-Maine, we try all the time to get the number of people per house, so I have to look, and then we work on a satellite image, and we try to, usually I collect the numbers, I arrive in the village and I ask people how many people in the village, so we get a number that I put down in my note, and then I speak with Remy and we look at the map, and we were able to have some, basically, it seems that the numbers, when you reach the capital, the farther you go from the mining area, the more inflated is the number of miners that are involved actually in the rush. And this technique is actually very useful.
So Remy, go ahead.
I think that according to me, the number of people by house is quite the same in the south or in the north or in the eastern part of Madagascar in that kind of rush. And I've not been in Eastern Africa, but I think it would be quite the same because the demographic structure of people is almost the same in every mining district. Maybe you can show we talk about pyramide des âges in French. This is the
migration. This one?
No.
Which
it's
one?
a kind of graph that makes a pyramid.
H pyramid.
H pyramid.
Okay, I see it. No.
Looks like a tree.
Oh, there. No.
Yeah.
Sorry, I clicked the wrong one. There we go. This one, right?
No, the one before.
Before.
The one before.
Oh, I had. Sorry, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
This is the result of the survey I have done in 2007. This is for one of the villages I was talking about mining camps because this one was a village that stayed just for few months, and when it was completely depleted, everybody moved to another place. And this pyramid show for men and women the number of people at every year. And this is almost the same kind of things you can find in every new mining district in the world. And it's not new. Even in the 19th century, during gold rush in California or in Klondike or everywhere in Australia, we had the same kind of things with a lot of young adults, especially men, and almost any people between 9 and 15 years. We have to keep in mind that it's like an image of what was the situation in 2007. The very young people that are at the base of this pyramid now are older, or about 10 years. But at the beginning of a rush, I think that the demographic situation is almost every time that kind of situation. That's why, according to me, the survey that I have done in 2007 can be reused. The data, most of the data can give information for other rush worldwide, I think.
There is something in your graph that is interesting, is that in your graph there is quite a lot of people between 0 and 4. And basically I think that are the kids that were born in the mining site. Usually people don't travel with very young kids. But the reason why you have such a big population between 0 and 4 is that this village probably is 4 or 5 years old.
Yes, you are true.
Already 4 or 5 years in the rush. That's why you have such a big population of babies.
Exactly, you are true. At the beginning, miners, diggers, and everybody came to the mining district without any kids. Most of the time, it was young people alone, and they were between 20 and 30 years old. And as this is a view of the situation in 2007, it's about 10 years, 5 to 10 years after the
beginning of the rush.
And they met a wife and things like that, and finally they had babies, and all these babies, this very large number of very, very young kids are born in the mining district, and it's the first generation that is really a mining kids generation, I want to say. And the question is, I was thinking when I was there, what will they become? Will they stay in the area to make the mining industry go further? Will they move to come back to the other location? It's always a question.
Yeah. In East Africa, you have, for example, in Tanzania, you have some. I met most of my contacts in the field were people who were the second or the third generation of gem miners. So very often the kids that are born from parents who are in the trade, because they will live with their parents in the mining area, then, when you are a kid and you are born in a farm, you learn how to become a farmer. But when you're a kid and you are born in a gem trading area or gem mining area, there is many chance that you will learn about mining.
Yes,
and probably some of them, a significant amount of them, will maybe become a miner, become investor, or maybe a blacksmith, or depend what is the profession of their parents. Because from one thing I have seen, maybe you have a comment on that. The people, for example, this pyramid of age is not too much separated by profession. Maybe the people who are doing trade in the village, who are working with food and things like that, or blacksmiths, are these people are more likely to have kids compared to the miners or the investors? You see, that's I have seen a lot of people actually for the traders with kids, but the miners not too much.
I have not studied the data in that way, but it's really interesting. But as you say, when we are in the mining district, the feeling is that miners have less kids than all the other people finally that were there, merchants and businessmen and all. But yes, as you said, I think that a large part of the kids will stay in the mining industry finally, and that's the reason why I think that the skills will improve generation after generation. And in Madagascar, as everywhere in Eastern Africa, where we had the same kind of gem rush in the last 2 or 3 decades. A kind of mining culture is actually growing. It's a very long process, but as in Australia or in Northern America, we know that the gold rush of the 19th century have been the base of a kind of mining culture. I think that in Eastern Africa and in Madagascar, we are actually at the beginning of that kind of process.
Actually, if you look at Ilakaka, the mining technique, especially the small scale used by the small scale miners, are really improved during the past 20 years. Because when I discuss with people who were there at the beginning, the way they were digging the holes, like the vertical shaft, they were not putting any wood in order to protect against collapsing and things like that. This came a little bit later. Then they also learn about how to deal with water. Now you have many people, they have pumps, they learn how to make ventilation system. So regularly, year after year, when I come back, I see that there are some significant improvement in the mining techniques that people are putting in place around Ilakaka. Sometimes you see also when there are other gem rush, for example, people from Ilakaka, they go to Ndinamena or Ambatundraza area, they could travel to different places, and then they come back with something that they learn from the different places, and they return to Ilakaka and they implement the new technique to Ilakaka. So already, when I discuss with miners, it seems that, for example, regarding safety and mining technique, there is less people who die every week mining in Ilakaka than at the beginning. There are still a lot of people who die because the ground collapsed, the mine collapsed. But after 20 years, people understand more when it's dangerous to mine underground, because when the rain is coming, the sand it's not anymore cemented. And they learn a lot because they saw many mine collapse. So the people who survived understood, okay, this mine collapse, this amount of people are dead, and this is probably the reason why. And so they learn.
Remy, if we could go back to this map real quick. We had one question from Chris Mowat. He was asking, what do the different colored dots mean on the map you've made?
It just means that this is every color's pocket is just 100 house. It's just to make it easier to count.
Okay.
But there's no other differences. And just about this map, I've done the same for about 15 villages in the Ilakaka mining district, and I always found the same kind of density. It was between 45 and 70 houses per 1,000 square meter. It was always the same, and finally I stopped this really boring work that make me painful at the finger, just to measure the area made of houses, and after I reproduce by the number, the average number of houses.
Okay.
By
there is one thing interesting you told me regarding this counting you are doing. Is when it's a rush, a brand new rush, you told me that you have about 3 people per house. But after 1 year or 2 years, because there are kids that are born, it's going to 4.
Yeah.
And this is related with your age pyramidal. So when the rush starts, it's about 3 people per house. And after 2 years, basically, because you have 1 kid, then it's about 4.
Yes, exactly. That's why we have to keep in mind that what I know about mining rush in Madagascar is more what happened during the last decade. But I've not been there since 2008, and
That's why we have to.
We understand that according to what I think and what I know, I think that actually the number of people by house is a little bit more than 3.6, 3.8. It would be maybe 4 or 5 person per house.
Families are growing.
Well, it depends because now you have, for example, in mining town, for example, when it depends also where they go. For example, last time I went to a rush, I witnessed what was going on in Bement, in the northeast of Madagascar. Things are getting a bit more modern. For example, people buy tents. So they buy they are not doing all the time, the kind of hut with a branch, because in Ilakaka it's quite okay when it's dry, but when it's raining like every day, people buy a tent. And then the size of the kind of house of the tent is quite different. So you don't have exactly the same type of mining village with this small hut or house like they are doing in the south. But when you are going to other place, there is modernity that is kicking in, and people are starting to use tent. And tent, then you have a difference between in the number of people you have in the tent. At least I saw that in the east.
Yes, we have to make another survey in that kind of rush.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we had another question. This one is from Alice, and Alice is a social anthropologist. She's working on similar kinds of issues as you for a project, and she wanted to know more about your insights on community resource management. And so she's specifically asking, are there associations in Ilakaka that ensure participation within the community for profits made from mining?
When I lived the area for the last time in 2008, there was some NGOs that were trying to do a few things. They built one school and they were supposed to build another one. The mining code of Madagascar have been changed during the decade around 2006, and it was supposed to be better for diggers to get more money and to have a kind of formalization because when I was there, they were working in the informal sector. I don't know if it changed a lot since, but it seems that it was not changing very far. And as when I was asking the government and the mining, at the ministry. I feel like it was not supposed to change very quick, and as the country has experienced a big political crisis in 2009 and years after, I think it have not changed. And
there is something specific about Madagascar because Alice, she's a friend of mine. I like to follow her because she's a bit new, and one day it would be great if you can meet and discuss about that, because she's currently doing her PhD on gem trading and gem mining in Pakistan and Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. There is a big difference between the area where she works and the area where you work, and that would be an interesting subject of discussion. In Madagascar, most of the gem mining is associated with rushes. So it means that basically there is no so-called community. You had, before the rush, you had local communities in Madagascar that are mainly Bar people. But as soon as there was a discovery, you had maybe in the area where you have the gem rush, you can see that in Remy PhD, you had a population that was maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people. And then suddenly you have 120,000 people that arrive. And these 120,000 people are not local communities, they are migrants. So basically, you reach a place in Madagascar where you have maybe a very small percentage of the local communities that get invaded by maybe 10 times their number immigrant. So the problem with these migrants and things like that is that you have new villages that are created that are not officially recognized by the government. So it means that there is no mayor, there is no school, there is no, all the normal services that you have in Madagascar don't exist there. And these people officially don't exist in a map.
Mm.
So when you want to define, speaking about community, what does it mean? Is it the community before the rush? Or should this community include the migrants that basically don't want to stay? Because this is something interesting that you have in your PhD. You are studying, for example, the wish of this migrant. What are they willing to do with their money? If people find a stone, these people who move to that place, do they want to build their life in this new place, or do they want to come back at home? So, and many people are confused because in many other countries, people think that, the people who are working there are the local community. Well, when you speak about the people who were there before the rush, no, the people that came are invaders and they are migrants and they are not the local community. So this is maybe something you can discuss. We can discuss about.
Yeah. For sure, I think that the word of community is not really appropriate to the situation of mining camps and mining villages in Madagascar, because it's migrants and they come from many parts of Madagascar, and most of the time they really don't mind of what will happen in long terms for years. They just move from one place to another, sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5 times in the same year. I have seen villages that remain at the same place for a few weeks and they change to another place, and people are not really building a community. I've seen during the survey, Vincent was talking about what they really wish to do if they get a big stone and if they want a lot of money. And I've seen the answer is not the same if you are a woman or if you are a man. For the men, if they get a lot of money, they almost never plan to improve their situation where they are at this time. They always think to make something in another place, especially in the area where they have been on Earth for the first time. And the women is different. The women are more thinking to invest in the mining district. I think that it's because finally, even if they don't found money, they have found in the mining district a kind of freedom that they were looking for. And I've seen that on the survey that women, more than half of the women said, if I get a lot of money, I will try to have a better situation there in the mining district. Maybe by buying a shop or build a good house for my kids. And maybe by the women, we will have generation after generation, year after year, a kind of community, sedentary community. But the men, they always think to move to another place, to get more money, to invest in the area where they were born.
Basically, the women in mining area don't want to return in their original village. Most of them.
They don't.
But in Madagascar, when you ask this question to women, they don't want to return. They like to be in mining areas because they have more freedom. They are not too much under the control of the
tradition.
Basically, that local community, they are more freedom.
So
yes,
most of the men actually, I think in your survey, in your PhD, you see that basically men want to buy cattle back home, But women, if they find a stone, they want to buy a house in the mining area.
Exactly.
It's kind of totally two different perception. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that men, most of the time, have quite a good place in the society, in the traditional society. So they lived this situation to try to get rich in the mining district. Most of the time they didn't get rich, and that's why a lot of men want to come back and want to invest in the area where they come from. For the women, it's totally different. They escaped the area where they were birthed, but not only or not just to get rich. I think, according to me, they escape that kind of control, of traditional control. And in the mining district, most of the time, they didn't find money, but they found a kind of freedom. That's why if they get a lot of money by finding a good stone or thing like that, if they could, they want to invest in the mining district.
Mm. There is one thing that I found that I'm interesting in Ilakaka or in Madagascar with the gem rush, is a kind of a social aspect of many ethnics that are getting together, while without the gem industry, without mining, they will have a kind of separate life. Like 20 years ago, before the discovery of Madagascar, people were not too much in with different ethnic in Madagascar. Even in the south, they were not too much in contact. But because of the mining industry, in Ilakaka, this is a place where you find people from basically everywhere in Madagascar, or at least everywhere from the center to the south of Madagascar.
Yes, maybe we can show the map with blue.
Yeah,
and
where
red,
the miner come from, where the migrant come from.
Yeah.
This one?
Not this one.
This one?
Yeah.
The next one.
Yeah, this one. This map showed the number of people, the size of the circles is in link with the number of people that actually in 2007 in the Ilakaka mining district. And you can see the blue is for the men and the red for the women. And you can see that many people come from the southern part of Madagascar, especially near Antanou, Saint-Androuille, Tuléar as well, and from the center of the country. It makes at least 3 big points, 3 different areas where they come from. And as Vincent said, in Ilakaka, it's kind of unique, I think, in Madagascar to get this situation with different people that work and live exactly in the same place, even if they have not exactly the same language, even if they don't have the same culture. And it works not that bad. And for me, and I think for every people that come from outside, from another country, it's for me it was interesting, and it was how to say this? It was easy to work there because of this melting pot. Because as people said, after a few months and years there, I was a little bit like everybody.
Yeah, everybody is a migrant. In a rush time, whoever you are one of these migrants that joins the rush like everybody else.
Exactly. I was a migrant like everybody, And they said with their word, you are Tuptan. Tuptan means in Malagasy it means you are the owner of the land. And everywhere in Madagascar, this word of Tuptan make a separation, a gap between people from the place and the other. And when you are a migrant, you can't expect a lot of things if you are not Tuptan. And in Ilakaka area, Tuptan have been like flooded by more than 100,000 people, and has been said before the rush there were less than 10,000 people in that place, and they have been flooded by migrants. And actually, no, the last time when I've been there, we could say that the Tuptan, there were not Tuptan anymore, and every migrant had the same chance to do what he wants. And especially for women, it was really interesting because they were not judged. They could do what they want because the traditional way of thinking was not exactly working in that area.
Mm.
Actually, in Ilakaka, you had some place where you have some old village like Voimen, and because of the arrival of the migrants, you had Voimen Vovo, so they created a new village. So you had the traditional village where the local people didn't want to have this migrant coming, and then the new village next door where you have maybe the chief of the village or some people who were like a migrant friendly organize a new village next door. And very often you have two villages. You have the original village that is usually very small and they are dealing with a little bit agriculture. Basically, they are supporting the miners, selling them food or cattle, but they don't have changed too much their way of life or their economy, their income, from what I see. And then the new village that is more dedicated to mining.
The local people have been a little bit. They have been. They couldn't keep the same way of life because most of them had cattle, big cattle, and in the traditional way of this kind of farming. They leave the animals
free
everywhere, and with all the mining pits that are actually in the area, they cannot do this anymore. That's why many of them have stopped this activity, but they keep on working in a kind of agriculture. They grow manioc. I don't remember the word in English.
Cassava. They are growing cassava or rice if there is water available. Rice, cassava. Around
Ilakaka. And they sell this production to miners.
Yeah.
That's the way they found to get money with this new situation.
Mm.
But actually, very few Bara people. I don't have seen many Bara people going to mining or to gem trading. Very few. Very few.
One question one question that came up from the audience from Martin Viala. He was asking, is there a lot of tension between the local communities and the migrants, when they're actually doing the mining and stuff? Or do they just they just stay in different places and they don't try to interact with each other?
It depends on, as we said, the mining district is very large. In most of the district, I've not seen any conflicts because the migrants were just too strong because the force.
There's more of them.
Yes, that's why. When you just have a knife and another one has a nuclear bomb, you don't fight. But in the northwest of the area where local population is a little bit stronger. There was some conflicts, especially around the question of how can we keep cattle in the forest, and how can we leave the cattle in the forest if there are mining pits everywhere. But finally, I think they have lost their hope to keep their traditional way of living. And according to the survey, all the time it's from this that I have the information, but according to the survey, local population have a little bit increased their money with the mining rush because of this opportunity to sell other things. And most of the time when stones were found on a location where local population had a kind of power, most of the time a part of the money of this stone came back to the local population, or at least to one guy of this local population. And this money, I think, has gave how to say? Yes, it makes local population a little bit happy, but just a little bit. But I think the main thing is that you got 100 people on one side and another one on the other side. So how can you fight?
Yeah, especially the 100 are usually young men, strong, motivated, with iron picks. And on the other side, you have one guy with his wife and 5 kids and his father. Exactly. So basically, when you are a small Bara cattle herder and you have a village with 20 people and they have maybe 200 cattle, and then suddenly you have 3,000 miners coming, you are not ruling anymore to manage the area. And in Madagascar, there is something interesting, is that there are many what we call fadi. So local beliefs that, for example, in one village, people don't, in another village, they don't dress with yellow. And in the next village, they don't eat goat. So you have, in every village, you have some secret area, some area where people were not doing any activity because it was a place for, they were thinking that they were spirit and things like that. And then you had suddenly all this invasion of people who don't have the same belief, who think that there is no problem to wear yellow, I wear yellow, I don't care, and I eat goat. And you have all these beliefs, people with different beliefs that come in the same area, and you have conflict. I have, usually in Ilakaka, area, at the beginning it was quite okay, but with the economic situation getting more difficult, now it's very difficult to stay anymore in the village, especially at night, because number one, you have people drinking, then you have drunk people. And when you have drunk people, words are coming out very quickly. So people who believe that in this village, people should not wear yellow and should not work on Tuesday or Thursday and things like that, you have regularly conflict over basically drinking. Especially, I don't know, did you ever witness the national holiday in Ilakaka?
National holiday?
Like in I think June.
June, yes, in June, and in April there's also another big day. Yes, it was most of the time I was in Madagascar between between March and June. So I've been there during this time, and yes, it was the only day where they stopped working in the mines.
Yeah,
and everybody was drinking.
Yeah,
it was kind of funny, but kind of dangerous as well.
Yeah, because the next day, every time I was going in the village and I was asking how many people, how was it yesterday? And basically, after 5 minutes, I learned that in every village, you had between 1 and 5 or 10 dead because of the fights that happened during the National Day.
Yes, I witnessed that during this question of security is interesting. As I said, when I started working on this subject, I was not thinking that a professor could let me work on it, because it was supposed to be really dangerous to travel and even to stay there. But finally, when I started working there, it was quiet. I never have been stolen in Ilakaka. For 6 months I stayed there. Never been stolen. I never had to fight, for me, even if I stayed day and night in this city. And the 2 first years, so in 2002 and 2003, I've not seen too much fights in the street. But in 2004, miners get a little bit more money due to the deflation. It's complicated to explicate, but it's the reason why they get more money. And new people came in the mining district. It's kind of rush after rush. And because of all this money, people were drinking a lot during months of April, May, June, July in 2004. And with all this alcohol, I've seen fights everywhere, every day, especially women, prostitutes that were fighting. I've seen this. Sometimes it was 2, 3, 4 fights just in one evening. But I've never seen any people kill another one.
No, me too. But people
and the year after, the year 2005 and 6 and 7 and 8, it came back to the previous situation with a kind of apparent security, and I've never been. I never felt in danger.
Yeah, but there is one thing: you were staying in a very small hotel, very cheap one.
Yeah.
And you were dressing in a way that basically you were looking the same as the other guy around. You were not showing any kind of fancy clothes or, and you have a very humble way to speak to people. Basically, you were behaving a little bit like them. And maybe you had your motorbike, but it was probably not a brand new one, as I know you well. And you were looking more like, a tourist without any money than, one of these basically foreigner type Sri Lankan who is building a house looking like Las Vegas, in Madagascar, in order to show off and say, I have money. If you have stone, come to see me. You were looking like what in Thailand they call a Phalang Kinok, so it means a broke Westerner going around and staying in a hotel where probably he was the only Westerner that ever stayed in that hotel.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is one key. If somebody is listening and want to stay for a long time in that kind of area, you have to look. To look poor and to look that nothing, neither your money, neither you can be something stolen. I look, as you say, as a tourist that I've lost everything. And
this is the way I was doing at the beginning. At the beginning, when I was, especially my first trip in Africa, it started with Ilakaka. And I understood that very quickly. I was stolen my camera the second day when I came in Ilakaka in 2005. I had a small camera on my belt. It was gone after the second day I was in town. And then I understood that, okay, if you don't want to get pickpocket, you really have to get nothing that will attract the attention of people. And if you want, and I learned from that pickpocket, the second day of my visit in Ilakaka. Since then, I was never stolen anything. And I never, as you say, in Ilakaka, I never had any kind of problem with people. Because, and I tell to my team when we go there, you remove everything that could be stolen or that could get people interested. Of course, maybe you keep your camera. The camera is okay. You cannot avoid to have a camera if you want to take photo. But all the rest don't come with a brand thing, with fancy clothes, and just, try to blend in the color of the ground. Don't look like a cherry that is, a cherry that will attract the attention of people 200 meters away.
Yes, for sure. I remember when I had that kind of expedition for 1 week. The last year I traveled. I've been in every villages of the mining district. It makes about 60 different places, and I've been there with my motorbike for a week of trip in the field. And I remember I just bring about I think. $20 to $50 of money for 1 week, and that's all, nothing else, and just my GPS. But I had nothing else with me, no photographs, no camera, no everything.
But already $20 to $50, it's a lot for many local people working at the
it's a lot, but for 1 week it's just minus, because I had to buy a little bit of gasoline, gas oil. So, but just take the minimum every time for sure. And finally, I never had problems. But I'm not sure that it would be the same actually, because the situation seems to be different.
Yeah,
I think maybe you got information on it.
Yeah, the period where you went from basically 2002 to 2007. Basically, before the crisis in 2008, 2009, the political crisis, that was very okay. At this time, there was not too much insecurity around. After 2009, things became difficult, and regularly now when I go, now it's very difficult to go anywhere without an armed escort around Ilakaka. Because every time I go there, I ask my local contact, and they say, no, Vincent, if we go there without an escort, we'll get attacked. There are bandits. There are people who are really in a difficult situation. For example, you saw at the end of the video, you have a locust coming and eating the crops. So you have entire areas that their crops are destroyed by locusts. And then people have nothing to do. So they are looking at their village. Okay, we have 5 guns. We have no more food. All the work we did for the past 6 months is going to zero. What are we going to do? So some people decide to go to the next village and ask them some help. If they refuse, then they have to use the guns they have in order to get some food. So steal some cattle, steal something, or maybe... and then you have all the competition between dealers. There was a question, I saw a question from, I think somebody from maybe Sri Lanka who is asking about security in the late evening.
Yeah.
Well, if you are known, for example, if you are a buyer, if people know that you are buying, it's not safe to be on the road because people think that you have money or you have stones. For a buyer, it's not safe to go to a mining area. Number one, because you will have to go on the road. And it's not safe for one reason simple. Because in Madagascar, they accept a foreign buyer to stay in town, like in Ilakaka or maybe in Sakara. But all the other place, like a mining village, this is where the Malagasy businessman, they collect the stone from the local miners and then they bring that to town. If you are going to this mining village, you have many people, the local businessmen, who feel that you want to bypass them. So because you are seen as buying them, some of them, because you come in their territory and you threaten their business because maybe you are buying higher price than them, so then you make them look bad, they will teach you a lesson and they will really don't want anybody to come in the village. So Remy, you were probably fine because people knew very rapidly that you were not buying stone. But if you are buying stone and that you are going to a mining village, then you are disrupting the local business of maybe 5 or 6 local businessmen. And these people will try to make you afraid. So maybe they will catch you, send people to catch you on the road and beat you a little bit, or make you afraid, or you just steal you. And if it turns bad, maybe you will die. So you have, every time I go there regularly, I hear that every week there is a guy who is killed somewhere because of, I think, mainly business issue between groups, between competition between some buyers and some group, and people don't like each other for this or that reason. So there are many business-related insecurity.
Yeah, you're true.
Plus the alcohol-related insecurity.
Yeah, the alcohol and money.
And the local culture-related insecurities that are clashing.
Yeah.
So that's why staying in the village in the evening, when maybe 20 or 30% of the people are drunk, maybe more if, and that can be tricky. Except if you go with the right people, and these people introduce you to, and people know what you are doing, and then you became under the protection of a group of people, which is what I'm doing all the time. And I guess that, you get introduced, you go to a village, I guess you were going to discuss with the head of the village, explaining what you were doing, asking him permission. So basically, in that case, you are under his protection and nobody will touch you. But if you are doing like a funny, sneaky way, you are a moving target.
Yeah. And Vincent, he had also asked in the chat about using smartphones. He was saying everyone there only is using a basic mobile phone because the smartphone can get stolen. Have you guys had any experience with this? Basically just having people see you with an iPhone or something like that?
Me, when I was there, the phone, the mobile phone just start to be used because I think the first year for mobile phone in the main town of Ilakaka, it would be around 2006. Okay. And the mobile phone didn't work at this time when you leved the main town. Okay. So finally, basically, anybody used the mobile phone, and more the smartphone. But I think it would have changed a lot, I think, since these years.
Yeah, I still remember at the time of Nirin that, there were, in many mining areas, you have, for example, people know that if you go on the top of the hill, around this time when it's not too hot or it's too cold, you go on the top of the hill and they put some stone and you go on the top and you put your phone on the, and then you get network. But in many areas around Ilakaka, you don't have network.
Okay.
Still now, many areas you don't have a mobile network. So people are using, many people are using basic phone because they just use the phone for, which is very interesting. They are using the phone with to send money. That increase security in Madagascar now. You have many people who are sending the money to their team. Some boss, some local businessman. They don't need to travel anymore with cash. They are sending money with a mobile phone. I saw that in Bement. Now it's happening also in Ilakaka. People receive the money with their phone, so there is less cash that is involved, and it increases the security because you don't travel with money.
Yeah.
But still, this is a big issue. Most of the part of Ilakaka, when you see the huge area that it is, if you go away from the road like 5 kilometers, you are in a red area. There is no phone, and you don't know what will happen. Basically, the authorities don't recommend anybody to go out away from basically a few hundred meters from the main road.
Okay.
During day. At night, you don't go anywhere. You stay in town.
So if we could go back to this idea of community organization, I had a question before. When we're talking about these rush communities and these sort of improvised neighborhoods or villages or whatever, is there a certain equilibrium or a balance that just sort of naturally happens? Like, of course, we have all these miners coming in, but are some people also coming in to be cooks or merchants, like shopkeepers? So this is like natural thing. Somebody gets the idea, I'm going to go be a cook at the mine site.
I saw that at Bement very much. At Bement, I was able to go in a rush when the rush was just starting. Same in a deed. Then you see there are many people, for example, they were farmers. I think Remy is the same. When you ask the people in Ilakaka, most of the people are coming from a farmer background or cattle herder or things like that. And when these people were not owner of the land, as Remy was saying, they were basically labor people working for owner of the land. And basically these people were making less than $1 per day. But just, because there was a discovery of gemstone, then you need people to carry rice, to carry food to the mining area. Because if you have 5,000 or 10,000 people living in a mining village somewhere, there is not enough food to supply them. So, and sometimes there is no road. So some people have to carry rice bags in order to bring supply for people to eat. And many people who were doing some agriculture work, getting paid less than $1 per day doing that, suddenly get paid $2 or $3 per day to carry a bag of 20 kilograms of rice to the mining area. So they are making 3 or 4 times what they were doing. Of course, they have to work for maybe 7 or 8 hours, but if they don't do that, they have to work, in a paddy field for 7 or 8 hours. So it's tough work, but many people in this gem rush see the business opportunity and income increase 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. People go there to open a restaurant. People go there to build some house and to host the miners, to provide service to the miners, and just come and go. Some people are good at walking; they don't know anything about stone, so they try to do a back and forth to the mining area every day. Yeah, I have seen that.
Okay.
Yes, it's about 20 to 40% of the population that is not mining finally in a rush. You got yes, about between 30 and sometimes 50% of the population. It depends on the village, but in the main village of Ilakaka, you got about the village is supposed to be around 20,000 to 30,000 people, and in this main village, you don't have diggers anymore. It's just merchants and people that are living from that kind of activity, bringing stuff for the mine or foods or.
I think you have maximum 500 diggers.
And even in entertainment as well. You had a kind of cinema, many things. And it was interesting because I noticed that people are, depending on the area where they come from, they don't make the same job. In Ilakaka area, diggers and businessmen that buy and sell stones were mainly from the southern parts of the country, Antanru and Tanus. And the people that were merchants were mainly from the central part of the country, especially Fianaransu and Antananarivo.
Betsileo people.
Betsileo and Merin.
Yeah.
And so for the people that are there, does it seem like they're having a good time? You know, like I'm just trying to imagine what it would be like to just suddenly leave home, go to this crazy place with all these other people. It almost sounds like a big party in some way. I mean, it's not quite a party, but like, are people kind of excited to be there? Like they're starting something fresh and new? And I'm not talking about the miners, but the merchants and the cooks and the rice walkers and whoever else is there. Like, are they excited, or it's just something that's happening?
Yeah, every time there is a new rush. In Ilakaka, sometimes, as Remy say, you have it's an old mining area now for 20 years, but you have regularly a news that in one of the area, there are some small rush inside Ilakaka. There is all the time a new place where you have maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people who are moving. Exactly the same as in Bement. When you go to a new mining area, people are all excited. They believe, they are full of excitement. They are going to a new place, and they believe that they will be lucky. And in this situation, there is, for example, very few insecurity. I'm all the time very welcome when there is a rush like that. People are busy working, and they see you, hello, newcomer. They call you a new guy. There is a new guy coming. Everybody say hello, welcome. And people are working hard, and hoping that they will the next day find the stone that will make them rich. Mm. So there is this kind of, and people who find stones, they get money, and there is, then they go to celebrate in the restaurant or in the bar, you know, at the end of the day. So you have this type of new gem mining areas, you have a kind of a festive atmosphere. Now, after a few weeks, the thing is that the people who make money, exactly like Remy said, usually they leave. And the people who stay are the ones who are not able to find the stone that will change their life. Mm. And then this is when the situation becomes more difficult, because these people are ashamed to come back home empty-handed. And of course, also some of these people borrow some money in order to go to the rush. So they borrow some money to their families, their friends. And after 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months, they were not able to make a profit.
Yeah.
And they are still in debt. So how can they come back?
Yeah.
And then they know that, oh, this guy found a big stone, he's gone. This guy found a big stone, he's gone. So many people are leaving and they stay. So when you reach one of these places where most of the people who find a stone are gone, now the stones are more expensive, it's more difficult and things like that, the mood is totally different.
Okay. Interesting. And so,
Remy?
Yes, you are true. It just this festive feeling remained just for a few weeks finally, because at the beginning the stones are close to the surface, and everybody's got hope, and everybody has bring money, as you say, from their family or from anyway from where they come from, and they've got things to eat, and they've got the hope, and hope is the big engine of what they do, and that's why during the first weeks everybody is okay, and you don't have any problem of security. There is place for everybody, because the geology is not well known, and you always can imagine that there are stones in another place. So everybody is welcome, and everybody works, everybody has hope, everybody has something to eat. But after a few weeks, it's different.
And I imagine
also, after a few weeks, you have a guy and a team of guys who say, okay, I'm the president. Now everybody who come have to pay $1 per day if they want to work in my area. So then when you start to have this kind of informal or mafia type group who take over the area, then the mood is starting differently, because some of the people who stay will start to ask the newcomer to pay some tax, and then they will not integrate the newcomers the same way as the guy who came, in the first wave. So there are some, because there is an organization that come in place. It's when there is a rush in a new area, it's a kind of chaotic situation. The last rush that I saw, it was in the south of Ilakaka area, in a place that was very, very bad for security. It was on the other side of the Onilai River. Usually nobody could go there. It was very dangerous. And then it seems that after the discovery of the stone, the local people decided to put the biggest cattle thief from the area as a mayor, as a president. Because this guy had the manpower to put security. So then this guy put some laws that if you steal anything, like a small thing, you get your hand chopped. If you steal a cattle, you have your head chopped, and your family will have to give back 5 cattle to the owner of the cattle. So you will have to pay 5 times what you have stolen, and you will be killed.
Wow.
Suddenly, the area became super secured, and we could go there, and there was no insecurity at all, because anybody knew that if they were stealing anything in this area, they get killed, and their family will be asked to pay 5 times. Or the president and his men will go to kill you.
Wow.
So during the rush, everything was fine. People were happy. But then as soon as Remy said, you have to dig deeper, stone are less easy to find. Hope is going down because you work for 3 weeks and you don't have found any stone. So then people are thinking, I should go to another place. And everybody is hoping to hear the news on the phone that, oh, there is a new discovery somewhere like 20 kilometers, 80 kilometers, 500 kilometers away. And they just hope to find enough stone to be able to pay a ticket to go to the next place. Not to go back home, but to go to the next place. I saw that regularly because usually when I arrive, I'm not among the first guy who arrive in the village. Usually I'm in Bangkok. I hear, oh, Vincent, there is a gem rush somewhere in Madagascar. So it takes 1 or 2 weeks. The time I take the plane ticket, I go there. And so I'm not among the first guy to arrive. So several times I arrived, the rush was a little bit like in the second phase of the thing. And already there was some news that there was a new area somewhere else. So people were trying to tell me and say, can you buy the stone? Because I want to go to another place. I would like, can you help me? This is my production for the past few days. And if you can buy my stone, then tomorrow I can take the taxi bus in order to go to work in another place. Because I think here it's a bit so. Yeah.
So we had another question come in. This is from Mubashir Mansour, a regular questioner for our talks. And he was saying he always found it strange that if he wants to see some nice Madagascar sapphires, he actually has a better time in Sri Lanka to see them than if he's actually in Ilakaka. So, but he said he didn't find that to be true for other East African countries. So he's wondering for you guys, how is Madagascar different from your point of view, which has made the Sri Lankans dominant?
I think that the Sri Lankan the reason why you don't see many good stone in Madagascar is because they are all going to the Sri Lankan.
But how is that different than other East African countries? I mean, why are the Sri Lankans so dominant in that place, but maybe not?
Because in Ilakaka, the stone in Ilakaka are very similar to the one in Sri Lanka. So the Sri Lankan, they have a knowledge about this type of sapphire for 1,000 years. They have a market. They know exactly where to sell the stone. So basically, they can pay higher price than anybody else because they know the market of this stone. They have the customers. The customers who want to buy this type of stone, they go to Sri Lanka or they go to Thailand and they will go to see, or to Hong Kong and they will go to see Sri Lankan dealers. Because people for generations are buying this stone from the Sri Lankans. So the Sri Lankans have a huge advantage because they know the world market, they are connected, usually also they have quite big families. So there is few people from the family who will go to the mining area and few people from the family who will go to the selling thing. Some people will go to Japan, one guy in Japan, one guy in Europe, one guy in China, one guy in the US, 2 guys in Madagascar, one in Tanzania, one in Nigeria. So you have families that are quite big, and they and you have this family in the gem trade where, you know, in place like Beruwala, everybody is causing with everybody. So they can work, because everybody is causing with everybody, they can put several families together and they can work as a team, which is very different compared to in Thailand or even in Madagascar. In Madagascar, people have difficulty to work beyond the family thing because there is a trust problem. If, you know, people are coming from different places, I discussed with Nirin, for example, on some Malagasy people who like to improve the way to mine. The difficulty they have is, for example, in Sri Lanka, it takes several years to train a miner to work with a technique. And in Madagascar, number one, it's very difficult to make people from different families to work together. Remy, we lost you. It's different to make people from different families to work together. And then when people have a little bit of training, as Remy said, if the guy finds a stone, they leave. They leave the mining area. So if you start to train people and work with them, they found a stone, they leave. The Sri Lankan, they found a stone, they don't leave. They keep going. So they use this experience. And at the end, this is very important. Now, in other mining areas, like in Africa, for example, you have different type of stone. And on this stone, maybe the Thais are better than the Sri Lankan. Okay. Or maybe you have also African dealers. You have in mainland Africa, you have gem traders for 3 or 4 generations. And they traditionally, for example, they bring stone to Idar-Oberstein, or they bring stone to Jaipur. So, for example, in Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, not all the stone are going basically to Beruwala and Colombo. You have stone going to Jaipur, you have stone going to Idar-Oberstein, you have stone going to Bangkok. So it's more balanced. But in Madagascar, Sri Lankan, they are more rough, they are more adapted to the bush than the Thais. Young Thai people are not willing to go to spend their life in Madagascar. Life is much better in Chantaburi, you know, or in Thailand. They have many more job opportunities. Now, young people in Beruwala or in Colombo, they are living maybe in families that are very traditional. Not, you know, when you are a young guy and you want to go a little bit out of your family, life is much more open in Thailand compared to Beruwala. So young Sri Lankan people are usually very happy to go in Madagascar. And I don't see, and that's why they are so strong, because they have the manpower. If for example, a French guy want to go to Madagascar, good luck, you will be alone. And in front of you, you have 250 Sri Lankan buyers. So you cannot have the same network. And then you will be alone, probably. You will not have your family in the trade, like your brother is selling. And then you will be a single person. The Sri Lankan are not a single person. They are working in group. So and they have a lot of solidarity with each other. So this is what makes the Sri Lankan very strong. Their knowledge about the stone, their ability to live and to go to live in Ilakaka. And there, you know, they try to put, they are traders. They will not invest. Like, it's interesting to see that in Remy, you have maybe seen that the Sri Lankan who are going to Madagascar are not the Sri Lankan miners. The miners, they stay at home in Sri Lanka. That's the traders.
Yeah.
So traders are much less vulnerable than miners. When you are a miner, whatever your size, you are a target. Because if you are a miner, for example, in Ilakaka, you get a mining license. Then you bring some machine. you have an investment. Then suddenly, if you are a foreigner, you are European or you are Sri Lankan or you are Thai, if there is a guy from a government coming and trying to get you headache because he wants to get money out of you, how can you do? If you have local enemies in the local population, you are such an easy target because you are mining in one place. You cannot move from go to the next town for a few days. No, your mine will be invaded and all your work will be gone. You are blocked in one area. Every miner is an easy target because it's anchored to one point in the ground.
Yeah.
Now, as a trader, you are moving with money. So you are in one town one day, you are in the next town the next day, and things like that. And basically, you can use local people. You say, well, you know, I come here, I will buy stone, I will help you. Let's make friendship and do something. So as a trader, you are much less vulnerable than as a miner. So traders are much more efficient. And basically what I see in Ilakaka over the 20 years is foreign miners, they failed because they were not big enough or they were not strong enough. Because they were at the wrong place, because they had the wrong idea, because they were thinking like the Thais, what was okay for Thailand. What they learn about mining in Thailand, a basalt-related deposit, will be okay in Madagascar, but it's not. Geology is different.
Yeah.
And so they made mistakes, and they didn't survive. And then when people came, local authorities, and dealing with thousands of people invading your area. Because if you are a miner, think about it. If you are successful and people start to know that you are successful, then you become a magnet. Everybody is coming around your place because they think this is what you have in Gemology. You have one guy who is successful, he found a good stone somewhere. So suddenly you have thousands of people coming. Imagine if you're a miner, you have a claim, and you are starting to find stone, people start to know that you find stone. Within the next 2 weeks, you have 500 people coming in your area. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
You have a good relationship with the guy from the village, the elder from the village, the owner of the land in the area. He's there with, there are 20 people, local people, but in 1 week, you have 500 people coming in your area. Do you think that the 10 people or the 20 people in the village will help you against 500? No, they will not.
Yeah.
So how to do in miners miners have to find the stone, then they have to find a cost-efficient way to mine the stone, and then they have to, if they have success with the first 2 points, they have to deal with security and jealousy. And any miner from the smaller guy to the bigger one have to deal with security. When I meet people in Madagascar, in Ilakaka, if there is a guy who found a stone, he knows that suddenly he can get killed. If you find a good sapphire in Ilakaka, it's dangerous. If the wrong people know that you have a sapphire, you will get attacked and they will steal your stone. In the best case, they steal your stone and you are back like 10 minutes before finding the stone. You are still alive, you are still healthy, and you don't have stone. But when you get a stone in your hand, who knows about that? Is it a guy who is ready to pay, or it's a guy who is ready to attack you?
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
So you are a small miner. If you are illegal, if you are a small miner, you are a target. And if you are a big miner and you are legal, you are also a big target. All miners are targets.
Yeah.
That's why I have respect for all miners. They are big or small. I think mining is a crazy job. If you are lucky and you find a good stone, that's why maybe many guys who are miners, as Remy said, if they get anything for security reasons, they want to go out to a place where nobody will ask them money, and that they come back to the village and they will be a rich guy. Now, a woman, she will think about making a small business, like a restaurant, something, different type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
How to deal with success?
It looks like we've covered a pretty diverse amount of topics. Remy, you have any final thoughts before we close it out for tonight? You're muted right now.
You are muted, Remy. You are muted. You have to unmute yourself.
There you go.
Yes.
Yes. As you can imagine, if I stayed for 6 months in Ilakaka, I never have been stolen. It would mean that I never found a big stone, as you said, Vincent.
But you came home with lots of good data, so that's okay. You have a different sort of a treasure.
Yes, and one time in the north of Madagascar, one guy had stolen my GPS. It was my another kind of problem, but. Yes, the data are not really interesting for the guys that look for money. That may be my chance. And one thing I want to say just before leaving is that to me, this experience in Ilakaka was just amazing. I had experience. I was really young. I was around 20, 25 years old, and I've been very lucky to live in this area where everything's were new. According to my science, to geography, it was really interesting, and even in the life of every day, it was an incredible freedom feeling, and for me it remained crazy. But in the yes.
What was the biggest challenge for you to doing that work? Was that the food? Was that what was the biggest challenge you have found?
It was to coming back to normal life.
Coming back to normal life, huh?
Yeah.
Like the jet lag you have, you come back in France and you say, "What I'm doing here?"
Yes, it's a kind of lag, but it's a kind of jet lag, but it needs a few months to come back in normal life because it's so different.
Yeah.
And I've got the feeling that it's over.
What do you mean?
Because I was in a time in my life where it was the perfect time to have this experience, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, but now you have kids?
Yes, I have kids.
What are you doing now? People will want to know, maybe you know a PhD in geography. What is the after of a PhD guy in geography? I know you went to live in Tahiti and then you come back in France. Basically, what is your life after this PhD? Was it positive? What came out from that? Because Alice, for example, she's watching us. By the way, she speaks French. And she's from Taiwan, and she's doing her PhD in Hong Kong. And she might be interested. She's thinking about all these kind of things and have the same kind of problem as you about coming back to life.
One word, courage. In one word, it could be courage. I've been a scientist for French institute called CNRS. I have been a teacher at university, even for younger people. But it's not easy to find a place as a scientist in social science at the world. And I'm still interested by all these questions, but it's really hard to make money with that kind of job and to find a job as a scientist in social science.
Or in gemology also, I can tell you.
In gemology also, and maybe even more since few months with the coronavirus, I think.
Oh, it's dead.
But yes, and my life is more and more linked with my children's, and that's the reason why I have to leave.
Yeah.
Well, that's good though. I mean, you had the chance to see, and you did your project, so it was a success, right?
Exactly.
But we are still going to try. Finally, this is what I would love to do. Is I would really love to. We have to find a schedule so we can go to Ilakaka together, see again all these people that we met and compare our experience. And I would love just to spend 2 or 3 weeks around in Ilakaka with you, and maybe also in some other place, in order to work a little bit together. As we are doing now, we work on article together, but I will working an article is fun, but collecting data.
Yeah.
I would love to, people like Alice are exactly the type of people I like to have in my trip as a guest, because you are the kind of people that I can learn from. I learn a lot from Remy, for example, and there is, for me, when I go somewhere, if there is somebody, and I know it's recorded, if there is somebody doing a PhD on social science and things like that, who basically want to go to one of these mining areas, you just contact me. Yeah?
It's gonna be done.
Yeah,
It'll be a good partnership. Okay, guys, shall we wrap it up? And let me put up the final screen. So Remy is not really doing social media, but if you guys want to check out some of his works, Vincent has been posting them on his Facebook for the last few days. All of the links were way too long to put up on the screen. You wouldn't really be able to type them in anyway. So go on Vincent's Facebook page and you'll see a lot of his PhD. Some of his other articles have been posted up there.
On the YouTube version, there will be in the comment, I will put links to all these things on the YouTube under the video. For people who watch that on YouTube, you just go on the description of the video and you will find the link to Remy PhD on a different article he has written. Sadly, for people who don't read French, his PhD was written in French. But still, this is the most interesting piece of work that I was able to read about Ilakaka.
Well, and also Google Translate works pretty well for French. I translate French a lot into English with Google Translate, and it's pretty understandable. So maybe someone can still get some info out of it, even if they're not French speakers. But anyway.
Yeah, no, there are many things you can understand even if you're not French speaking, and you can use automatic translating thing. You copy, you paste, and you check the translation with one of the tools. You will get most of it. You can get, it's a little bit painful in manipulation, but I think you can get a lot of information doing that. So it should not be a problem. If you are not too lazy, it should not be a problem to get a lot of information from a Remy PhD. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Remy, thank you so much for spending some time and telling us about your PhD and your project and giving us some real inside info on, what it was like at that point.
Thank you, Vincent, for all the things you do for people interested in GemRush, in gemstones, and everything. It's a big work, and thank you again, Vincent.
Well, I hope we can add one more small break together. Like as soon as this is finished, and if your kid and your wife let you go a little bit, we return together to the field and see a little bit and do some additional work. Because GemRush, for me, I have a fascination for that. This is experiencing GemRush either in Tanzania, Mozambique, or in Madagascar was one of the most some of the strongest experience in my life.
Okay.
And thank you to all the guests for spending another Wednesday evening with us. We're going to be here next week at the same-ish time with Richard Hughes. So that will be very exciting. And
we are still discussing about the subject with Richard, but I think that by tomorrow or day after tomorrow, we are going to finalize a specific subject. And I think it will be fun because Richard is one of the person who pushed me a lot to travel, and we travel a lot together to many different places. We went to Madagascar twice. We went to Tanzania. we went to Mozambique, we went to Tajikistan, we went to Thailand, we went to Vietnam. So we traveled quite a lot together, and I learned a lot from Richard. Richard is a little bit like basically like a Remy. When I saw Remy PhD, it was heaven, because I started my career in gemology. Basically, I decided to go to gemology because I read the book Ruby and Sapphire by Richard Hughes.
Yeah.
So basically, if you want to get ready for next week webinar, can tell you there is this book Ruby and Sapphire that was written by Richard. And basically, this is a book that changed my life and turned me from somebody who was wandering and searching a little bit himself into somebody who decided, okay, I will do something with Ruby and Sapphires. So he's my book father, let's say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to it. It's gonna be a fun one. Richard's always a source of information and good chat. So I think that's gonna be a good one. Okay. Well, thanks to all the guests, and catch you guys later. See you next week, Vincent.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks, Justin. It was great work again to master all the technical side of this. Thank you, Justin. Thanks,
Okay,
everybody.
see you later.
See you soon.